For almost 40 years, an incredible phenomena has been occurring in a remote village of Bosnia-Herzegovina, which may contain secrets that could change life as we know it. After hearing of a number of miracles from first-hand witnesses, I wonder if this could be a giant wake-up call for humanity. Considering once these secrets are revealed, it could be too late, this just might be worth taking a look into. I'm Shannon Gieselman, and since the day I discovered this place called Medjugorje, I haven't been able to take my mind off of it. Why doesn't everyone know about it? Well, join me as I bring real-life stories of miracles of Medjugorje and why this is a modern-day case for grace. Welcome to Miracles of Medjugorje, a case for grace. I'm Shannon Gieselman, and I'm so excited to introduce to you today's guest, Mirella Neverate. And Mirella is actually showing us the true case for grace because this is the second time that we've tried to record today. And so thank you, Mirella, for your patience. But yep. That's me, first interview, and actually don't record it. So that's what you signed up for.
Okay, let's practice.
But in any event, Maria and I, we met about 3 months ago at a movie premiere for Sean Bloomfield. And if you don't know who he is, Sean is a very well-known filmmaker who has had several documentaries on Medjugorje. And I remember Maria was at the welcome desk. She was handing out flyers for tours of Medjugorje, or pilgrimages, as you will. And I just must have asked you, have you been? And she excitedly said yes, and even told me that she had had a supernatural experience. And so I kind of pulled you aside and I said, you got to tell me more. And thankfully you indulged me, and we exchanged contact information, and you sent me your YouTube video, which is amazing, and we'll talk about that later, where you were actually a witness to Mariana's apparition. And in fact, since this is our second go of it today, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to cut this into 2 segments, and we're just going to give the full attention to the apparition day, to the second segment. So we'll build up into that, if you will. All right. So with that, we'll just get started. If you could just tell us how you first discovered this wonderful place, Medjugorje.
I heard about Medjugorje, and before I go into that, I wanted to bring it up last time. You say Medjugorje and I say Medjugorje. So for anyone that's watching this video, you can say Medjugorje and it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. So I just didn't want anyone to get confused about that, because I was very confused. And in fact, it probably took me a year to learn how to say Medjugorje.
Right.
I think I named it everything under the sun except the actual name. So if you're struggling with it, I think that's everyone.
Yeah.
But I first heard about Medjugorje through my sister-in-law, Nora, who is a devout Catholic, and she had been following Medjugorje, the apparitions. She has a strong devotion to the Blessed Mother Mary. So she was talking to me about it and how she wanted to go, and she wanted me to look into it as well. And so it wasn't until, and this, by the way, was early 2017, but around towards the end of 2018, I started to feel a very, very strong call in to go to Medjugorje. It's something supernatural. Supernatural. You can't really explain what it is unless you actually feel it. I used to hear people talking about it, but I never really felt it until then, and it became so intense, and I just felt this anxiety because I knew that I had to go early March, but I was a little nervous about what pilgrimage companies and all I had known about that area was that it was former Yugoslavia, civil war. I couldn't find anyone that was able to go with me because it was such short notice, and I basically, long story short, I ended up going alone. But basically, it was her, my sister-in-law, that introduced me to that.
Wonderful, yeah. So tell us a little bit about what your life looked like before Medjugorje, because a lot of times I know that people are called to go there and it just renews their faith. But from my understanding, you already had the faith, but you were able to experience a little bit more than you bargained for.
Yes, yes. I definitely, I led a very like spiritual life, and I definitely was more practicing Catholic. I was kind of lazy with my Catholicism, and I really, I didn't really know much of. I mean, I was familiar with Our Lady of Guadalupe, Our Lady of Fatima, but I didn't really understand the meaning of. But anyway, so I was learning more about my faith and my spiritual life because of it. Also was growing tremendously. So I was converted probably almost 3 years before I actually went to Medjugorje. So my conversion didn't happen there in Medjugorje. So I would say that before Medjugorje, it was kind of training me and building me up with experiences to be able to process my experience in Medjugorje.
Right. And to describe what conversion means for some people who don't know, that just means that you were a stronger practicing uh, Catholic or
Yes,
in your faith. Yeah.
yes, thank you for that clarification. Because someone would think, "Whoa, was she atheist?" Whatever it may be. But yes, you could be considered a Catholic, a Christian, and whichever religion, and still undergo a conversion. Basically, the limited understanding that I have is that a conversion is basically when you decide to completely give yourself and your heart to Jesus Christ, to God, if you're a Christian, and basically follow his path wholeheartedly, um, no questions asked. So you completely have faith regardless.
Yeah. So then I guess we get right into it, what you experienced once you were there, and tell us about your stories.
Wow. So my whole pilgrimage experience there, I kind of break it down in three parts. For me personally, and of course you hear stories, different stories all the time because it's different for every person. Um, so for me, it was, although I was leading a faithful life, it definitely took me to the next level. uh, my devotion and my prayer, and even I feel like I left Medjugorje with a burning heart. So this huge, so much love and peace that I obtained there. Also friendships, which is kind of interesting given the fact that, Jesus is constantly telling us in the Bible, and of course, Mary through her messages, love each other, unite, not divide. You love thy neighbor like yourself. So when you're a pilgrim there, and what I experienced as a pilgrim was exactly that. There were there was so many people from various parts of the United States, and of course from out of the country as well, although we couldn't communicate. But in my group, we just became friends. There was just this true sistership and brothership. We were brothers and sisters in Christ, and there was a spiritual connection, and a lot of us remain great friends despite the short amount of time that we've known each other. So that, I think, in itself is a miracle. The other part is the supernatural, which I experienced something supernatural every day that I was there. It first started on Wednesday evening when our group arrived in Medjugorje, and two new pilgrim friends of mine invited me to go with them to see St. James and the little town, to walk the town. I was late at night. We had to go through this dirt road, completely pitch black. If I was here in the States, I would have never done that because I would have been completely freaked out. But I felt safe, and I felt a peace, something that's intangible. You just can't explain it. You feel it. So anyhow, we finally got there, and she was showing us different areas within that place that were important. And we finally, towards the end of our little unofficial tour, my friend Marisol took me to where there's this huge statue of Christ. They call it the risen Christ, or they've nicknamed him the weeping Jesus, because water, um, or liquid substance, comes out of the statue. And when I kind of said a liquid substance because the texture of it is not really water, but it's not oil. It's like a combination, a very special combination. And in fact, I've heard a friend describe the water in Lourdes, and the way she was describing it felt was what I felt from
Hmm.
that statue, if that makes sense. So, so that was my first experience. I saw that coming out. But when we first got there, there wasn't any water, nothing. The statue was completely dry, because as a pilgrim, the first thing that you do is you want to go and touch the statue or kiss it or what have you, and that's basically what I did. And of course, because I consider myself a very logical and rational person, and I'm like, well, there's porous materials, and sometimes people get wrapped up in the hype, and even though I'm a believer, I still like to form my own opinion. And so I felt the legs, and there was, in my opinion, no way that anything can leak out of it, or I mean, I guess it's something you have to see for yourself, um but nothing was going on. It wasn't until after we were there for a while, we had been praying out loud, and then privately, did water start to come out of the statue, and we were just so excited.
Hmm.
The second day, it was we went to mass, English mass. It was my first time going to mass in Medjugorje, but there's a little chapel by St. James, so it wasn't actually conducted in St. James Church, where seats about 4,000 people, because it was in English, and there's only so many of us English people at that time. There there wasn't. It was still early in the week, so there weren't really a lot of pilgrims there just yet. So the group was small. Anyhow, during the consecration of the host, the blessing of the host, I, I felt like my heart, not only was it beating super fast, but it felt like it was at a rhythm, like it kind of would jump out of its place, super, super weird.
Hmm.
And it's scary. It's scary. And so I felt this warmth. I felt this like energy in me, and this light. I felt lightheaded. I felt and super emotional. But what I've experienced, and the type of emotion that I experience when it's something heavenly, it's a combination of a lot of things put into one. Um, Joy, pain, me yearning God, um, just but love, and at the same time, it almost felt like a purification, I guess. And just I couldn't stop crying. It was just, and anyhow, I that was that day. Um, and that was Thursday. On Friday, we climbed Apparition Hill, which is where they have a statue of Mary, in remembrance of where she appeared, the exact spot where she appeared initially to the visionaries. And it's a hike. And when we finally got to the top, um, everyone's approaching it. I was a little towards the end because I was walking with one of my friends that, was having some troubles walking. appeal. And you know, as I look to my left, I actually see this beautiful crucifix, this tall wooden crucifix that was there, and Jesus's body is hanging from it. And you know, I felt this pull to and love and responsibility to honor him first. So I went and I sat at the foot, you know, after I kissed his feet, because you know I'm Catholic, so we love to kiss statues. And by the way, when we do that, we don't know. I mean, it's not that we think the statue is, you know, the actual. It's like you kissing a picture of your loved one, your child, or you know, it's like that. At least for me. But anyhow, so I sat there and I prayed. I talked to Jesus. I talked to Mary, and I was waiting for my group to leave because I wanted this private time, you know, with Mary, you know, in front of the statue. And so there was the majority of everyone left, and there was a few other pilgrims that were there, but they weren't from our group. They I didn't know them. And I kneeled, I prayed, I did, you know, what any pilgrim does. And when I was finished, I started to walk towards the pathway for the exit, to climb back down. And I just felt it's a special feeling that I get when I know there's a presence or something heavenly. And I have felt it here back home. So I kind of, I know it. And I just felt I needed to look up. I look up in the sky. Honestly, I don't even think that the miracle of the sun was in my mind. I don't know, at least for me, like I was there, but I don't know, my focus wasn't, it was on other things, not necessarily on trying to see anything. So I looked up, and sure enough, there's a miracle of the sun happening. And I had seen it in videos. People talked about it. There's friends that came to Medjugorje and they talked to me about it. But when you see it for yourself, it's like if you're seeing it for the very first time. And it was just beautiful and spectacular. And I just felt this warmth in my heart and my spirit. And I was watching it for a while. And
describe to the audience about what the miracle of the sun is. For those of you who don't know, it's a phenomenon that has occurred way back in 1917 in Fatima, but now it's occurring regularly in Medjugorje. And if you could just describe like what it looks like, you can actually look into the sun without hurting or blinding yourself.
Yes. And let me just explain something about me. So I have incredibly sensitive eyes. In fact, a lot of my, you know, sisters and brothers have the same problem. I don't know what it is, but you know, I always put on my sunglasses because of that. They're just super sensitive to light, to the sun, especially to outdoor light. So I was wearing them, and I'm looking at the sun, and then I don't know why I just felt like, let me see what happens if I take off that shield. And nope, no problem whatsoever. And I was watching the sun for a while, eyes open, no problem.
In water or anything like that?
No, which, first of all, it's hard to do. And I've done it here, and there's just no way. I mean, when I look down, everything's pitch black, but not there, not there. It was definitely, that in itself was a phenomenon to me.
And you didn't notice if anyone else nearby had witnessed it as well? It was just you having this moment?
Yes, I felt very alone having this moment. There were other pilgrims around me, and because my back was to them, I mean, I wasn't facing them, I couldn't really see. But I do remember this. It was these ladies, these you know, little Asian ladies, and they just kind of looked at me and looked up, and then they just kind of, and they just kind of walked away.
Mhm.
And you know, and I mean, I saw other people um, pass by, but not that. Maybe I was just so focused on that I didn't notice if anyone else.
Yeah.
You know, I did see someone look up, but again, which was that? I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because like I'm not 100% sure if they did or they didn't. I just know they looked up, spoke their language, and left.
It's so interesting that it's not something that the masses will see all at once. In general, it just tends to be for the individual. And I want to interject here, like that's one of my friends. When she went there, she saw it. Well, at first she didn't. Her friend came up to her and says, I see it. I see it. Do you see it? And she goes, see what? She goes, the miracle of the sun. And she goes, no, I don't see it. And then, so her friend says, well, let's pray. Let's pray that you see it. She's like, okay, how do we do that? Just ask to see it. Just go ahead. Ask to see the miracle. So they closed their eyes. They said a little prayer. She opened her eyes and there it was, pulsating, spinning, everything. It's just,
Faith. And
yeah.
you have to ask. I know, I love that story. I really do.
Mm.
So yeah, and you know what? I started to leave, right? Because I had to get back to, you know, Mariana's pension, and you know, I had to catch lunch, which was already a late lunch, and then take off, you know, for the other things that we had to do. So I basically was like, okay, Maria, you got to stop looking, and you gotta go. And as I started walking, it's like I felt that tug again, and Maria, take out your phone and record the miracle of the sun. And I'm like, no, you know, going back and forth. No, you know, like I saw it. There's a lot of videos. It's not like, you know, what I'm going to record it, you know, means anything. But there was that record. So of course I take out my phone and I start recording. And, you know, what I was seeing was basically this big ball of light, golden light, and it was a host inside, this dark host, and it would move, the sun would move, and then there was this like pinkish, reddish light emanating, and it was like waves, but it was like like almost like a wind or an energy, like, you know, sound waves, how
Yeah.
digitally they you know, we can see. Well, it was kind of like that. And I'm recording. Later when I saw the video, I realized that what recorded it was the miracle of the sun, but not exactly what was seen. So there, that blue orb
Mm-hmm.
came out, rays, just like you see on the day of the apparition, um, came out of it, which I wasn't seeing with my own eyes. So it's just very interesting to see what I saw and what the video recorded. So and yeah, so I left, and then on that was Friday. Saturday I went to international mass, and that's held at the parish St. James, and it's in Croatian. And all of us pilgrims, when we first get there, you know, we can rent out a little radio, and you can listen to various languages depending on the, you know, the channel and what have you. So um, so um, after mass was adoration of the, you know, Eucharistic adoration, and I my friends and I, we sat literally like on the floor right in front of the altar, so we had like perfect view of, you know, the monstrance, and like, you know, we just sat there, we knelt, all that good stuff. It's adorations for an hour, and it's quite beautiful because the church seats 4,000 people, but it's over its capacity because there's so many people all around and in the middle of the pews. So it's literally like you are literally touching each other, and you're not fighting for room because everyone's super sweet. At least my experience. I've heard really bad stories, um, but then there's this like so many priests are in attendance of adoration. And for me, it was something new because here in the States, it's a little different. So it was more traditional. And I would say halfway into my adoration, I was deep in prayer, talking to Jesus, and just looking at the monstrons, because for me, I feel like, Jesus is in, the host, a consecrated host. Of course, it has to be blessed.
Explain to me what the monstrous is. I'm not sure what that is.
Okay,
Hold.
so
Go ahead.
yeah. Oh gosh, I wish I had a picture nearby. Um, if you are, it's this holder. Usually, it's in gold. And it basically looks like a sun, and it has like a
I've seen
little,
pictures. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, okay.
it has a little circular area where you can actually, that's where the host goes in, but it's a blessed host, not like, um it has to go through the whole process during mass, how they bless it. That is what goes there, because at that point in time, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, basically comes here, and that's what in the Bible, when Jesus is breaking the bread and the wine, so that all stems from that, and he makes the promise that every time we do that and it's blessed, like he's blessing it. And of course, now whoever's consecrated by the Holy Spirit, being the priests, the bishops, and what have you, now they, through the Holy Spirit, are able to bless it, and therefore we eat it. So
Okay.
now,
Okay. So in when you're going to communion and everyone gets a host,
mm-hmm.
who is the lucky one that gets that blessed host that was adored for an hour? Who gets to have that one? I want to know.
Well, that's a great. Well, maybe we should do some investigative work, but oh my gosh, that's a great question. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I have to ask when I go there.
But I would love to know, and who knows, maybe that's the one they keep there forever. I don't know, because they can't dispose it like a normal
Right.
thing. There's a very special process that they, take in order to, for instance, if someone drops it, we can't just pick it up and throw it away, or just wash it down the drain or the toilet. I mean, we literally see it as Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's other Catholics, we're very divided, where they think it's metaphorically. It's supposed, it's symbolic of Jesus Christ, but he doesn't really become it, which is kind of interesting, because I don't know if you've ever come across these stories, but in some regions, they've it actually started, they put a host in water, and it started to bleed.
Yep, I've seen the miracle of the host. You can look that up on Google, YouTube. It's all there. I know, it's amazing.
A very real thing. And so yeah, I actually I was kneeling, and I started to feel that sensation that I described during my first time at Mass. Um, and this warmth, and it's like a buildup. And the closer I feel I'm getting to God, the stronger everything is enhanced. And the monstrance started to get this ball of become this like ball of golden light. And then it just, what was around it was like if it was light emanating, and then it was encircled by that pinkish reddish hue thing that I was describing in the miracle of the sun. And then it became like cloudy, like misty, and everything disappeared around. Suddenly it's just this big ball of light I'm looking at. I don't see people, I don't see priests, which, I mean, everything was really clear, like you and I here. And as all this is happening, I feel this emotion and this just yearning and love for God. And of course, my heart is and I started to shake a little, and I feel like, again, my heart is like kind of jumping out of its place. And And then in my mind, it's so bizarre because this is not the first time it happens, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, we're in adoration. This is about Jesus. I already know that people, obviously everyone, human nature is to be curious, and like, sometimes people focus on the person rather the actual meaning and message of what's happening, right? And so I never want to be like the attention of any of that and distract, because here we are adoring God. And now I'm like, oh, people are going to like make it about me. So that's a distraction from the evil one. Like, so I'm just kind of like, oh, Jesus, no, 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 no. And then I also get kind of scared. So I pulled back. I kind of, started to calm myself down because I felt like I couldn't breathe. And my friend Marisol, my new pilgrim friend Marisol, was by me, and I remember she kind of she was a little bit, she was beside me but a little bit ahead of me, and I just remember she kind of looked at me and then looked back. And later, when we were at dinner, she asked me, about that, and then I told her what had happened, and she's like, yeah, she goes, you didn't look that great. But because we were in adoration again, you see what you see, but every pilgrim is still like focused on what they're doing, so that's kind of nice. But of course I didn't know that everyone's still, um, is there, and they let people have their moment. If they need to support them, they will. But so I've learned that. And yeah, so that was Saturday. And then Sunday, it was really special because I like praying the rosary by the risen Christ. And I'm sorry, when I'm telling you all this, like I'm reliving everything. That's taking me straight back, and I'm just like in La La Land. But I would I would pray the rosary by the risen Christ, and then I would get back. And if I needed to go to confession, or, I would just sit at, the benches that actually were outside in front of St. James, and wait for my friends. And so we can, uh, sit by each other during Mass. And my friend Marisol was actually, she was actually with a priest during confession, and she was talking to him. And over there, it's just so interesting because they have like this huge line of all these little mini rooms, and they're confessionals, and you see lines of people. I'm sorry, I've never seen that here in the States. And people are just so eager to go and confess.
It's known as the confession capital of the world.
Yes, absolutely, Shannon, totally. But this is something that I learned. So it's like the same people going, my friends, oh, I'm going to go. And then I'm thinking, wow, and this was so early on, well, shoot, how many sins can you have if you need to go back, right? The next day. But the thing is that people go there because these priests that feel called to, conduct confessions in Medjugorje have a special grace. It's a calling. And they give you advice. You can talk to them about anything about the faith if you have questions. I mean, whatever it is. So it's something you look forward to, because it's like you're talking to a friend that you can say anything to, and without being judged. Of course they'll scold you if there's a funny story Mariana tells about someone that went into confessions, and you probably will hear it because I'm sure it's one of her favorites, so I'm not going to ruin it for you, but remind me over there.
Okay.
And if she doesn't say it, I'll tell you. But anyhow, so I was waiting for Marisol to finish her confession, and I'm talking to God, I'm praying, and I felt this, like, it's a feeling like that I need to do. And I felt like I needed to look up in the sky, and I did, but I didn't see anything. So whatever, I continue on, and I'm people watching, and then I feel it again. And at this point, I'm really taking my time and looking around, and just like that, I started to see this huge big golden orb in the sky, and it just kept getting bigger. And then I saw the shape of Our Lady of the Virgin Mary, and it was a light. I mean, I didn't see her like I'm seeing you, but it was it was her shape,
The silhouette.
a silhouette. Yes, exactly. It was her silhouette. And of course, I'm taking it in because every time it's like if it's your first time, and I'm watching this. Marisol gets to me. She's kneeling beside me because she's going through her backpack, and she's chatting away. And I'm just looking at her like, oh my goodness. And I'm looking around, and it's like, why isn't anyone looking up? And, it's interesting because, that expression, people need to stop and smell the roses.
Mm-hmm.
That was not happening. And there's so many beautiful things that are happening in Medjugorje. But if you stop and pay attention to your heart and then look around, I think you might encounter some of these things. And I said, hey, Marisol, do you look up in the sky? Do you see anything? And she just looks up, mainly to be polite. And she, because she was busy looking through her stuff. And she looks around and she's like, no. And then I'm like, no, just look again. Look, just look. And she looks up, and I'm watching her because I'm like, oh, this is gonna be good. And so she turned white. I mean, her total shock, surprise. I mean, it was just, that was a gift to me to see someone like that. So, and she just, her eyes watered, and I mean, she was just like, I can't believe this is happening. I can't. So we're watching her for a little while, and she's like, she's there, but she looks like, the best way I can describe it, like if she was walking down some stairs, because the way that she was walking, we can see her little knees bend and then go down. And but it was all light. Mm-hmm. But yet the silhouette was so defined. It was just interesting. And so again, I felt that call to start recording. And of course, I'm going back and forth, typical Mirella, and I'm just like, no, how can you? It's not a show. But it was this record. So I take out my phone and I start recording. And after it all happened, later in the day, we saw the video, or I saw the video. The video didn't capture exactly what we saw, because what we saw was bigger. Mm-hmm. It was bigger. It was so much brilliance. It was like alive. It was just wonderful.
And do you have a feeling too, like knowing a feeling?
Yeah, of course. I know what it is, but I'm also like humble at heart, in the sense where like I cannot be this lucky. Mm-hmm. Yes, but don't think you're special. Okay, you saw a lot of gratitude, and thank you for the blessing. But I always there's always that part of me like, okay, well, not that I don't think I don't experience these things, but there's this like little piece of me that's just kind of like, okay, Mirella, like maybe not, but I think it's just me trying not to make it into, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain how.
Well, you said too, didn't you say Marisol, that was her 4th trip there? Had she not ever experienced anything until that moment?
And I
Fourth,
took 4 times. That was her fourth trip. Yeah.
and she never had anything.
No, never. Yeah. So
Wow.
I looked at her and I said, Marisol, she is a wonderful human being. I mean, she just loves Jesus, and she just loves Mary so much. And, you know, I just, I just looked at her and I just said, Marisol, I think this was for you. And, I think you just needed someone to say, hey, pay attention to your surroundings. Hey, stop and smell the roses. Um, but I really do think it was a gift for her. Well, I mean, for me too, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So, so that was definitely special. And then there was, that was Sunday, the day before Mary's apparition to Mariana. And then, of course, on Monday, I was there for Mariana's March 18th apparition. It was Monday. And, well, I was definitely in the presence of Mary.
And
So
we're going to focus that one just on the next segment. We'll come back and do that. But I do want to ask you a question I didn't get to about the risen Christ statue and how it oozes that substance. Did you ever collect it and bring it home or anything? Because a lot of people, they put it on a handkerchief or something and they bring it home. It's holy water. It's supposed to help people heal. It's been known to. And
yes, I did. So that day, I mean, I had nothing. I suppose I could have wiped a piece of my scarf or something, but I think about it. I honestly just felt it, blessed myself, and that was big enough for me. And now in Medjugorje, it's super, super heartwarming that when you go to the little shops, and everyone, by the way, is super sweet and friendly, and you purchase, whether it's something small or something big, they give you a gift. Yeah. So one of these gifts was a handkerchief. So I had that with me. So I actually got to use that at a later time to pick up some of that oil.
okay, so you saw it more than just that one first day. You
Yes.
saw it leaking again.
Yes. Yes, I
Okay.
did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And because again, keep in mind that I would go and pray the rosary there.
Yeah.
So I would see there literally is this like stepping stool. Because it's a huge statue. So if someone's on that stool, their head is at Christ's knees, kind of. So and usually because that's up to where people can see, that that's where they see the water. I had a friend who told me that his child, his son, saw him crying. So it was
Came out the eyes.
and then yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And he's, long story short, the moral of the story is that no one looks up. Everyone's so focused where there's this,
Right.
but no one is looking up. And here's this innocent little boy, curious about the world, and he's looking at Jesus' face because that's where we should be looking at,
Yeah.
And he's the one that got to see that,
Yep.
and because he was, he paid attention. Everyone saw what he was seeing because they looked up.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
what it is. Sometimes you need someone to remind you that it's always about looking up, looking it in, taking it all in. Yeah. Great. I love it. This is such a pleasure to have you today for the second time. I adore you. You're just amazing. And your story is so inspirational to me and hopefully many others. So thank you for taking the time to share that with us. Yeah. Is there anything else that you can think of that you want to add? We can always catch it next time.
I know. I hope this is the first of many because goodness, we're going to be there in March, and I am so excited for you. I can't wait to spend that time with you and all the new pilgrims. I experienced what I experienced the first time. I have zero expectations. I'm just there because I want to visit my mom pretty much.
Yes.
That it boils down to, and just it's his own little world there, really.
I know. Can't wait. I can't wait to experience it myself. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in and watching this segment with Mirella. She's been a dear blessing to us. Take care and God bless. Thank you.